I mean, you could feel playing in Europe and being in Sweden that the women's game is growing so fast here. I think the fastest, if you look at the last 5 years, just where this club alone has come from, it's just been like this. We're not necessarily wanting to be treated the same as the men. We are different. And I don't want to get into kind of the physical part, who can run faster, whatever. But more just, I think we're more accessible. You know, we greet every single fan who wants an autograph or a picture with us after the game. The men realistically can't do that.
All right, Chelsea fans, welcome back to another special London is Blue podcast. We're here at Cobham in England. We're hanging out with our first ever interview with the Chelsea women's player, Ali Riley. Welcome to our podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for coming to Cobham.
I mean, you know, like I said, we've been DMing back and forth, trying to find times. We're like, we'll just come to you. We'll make it easy.
Yep,
no
perfect.
big deal. But yeah, obviously we got Dan, Nick, Mike in the room as well for those of you listening to the audio version. But just real quick, in case of our listeners don't know or you aren't familiar with Ali, you actually grew up in LA, played and captained at Stanford women's team, and you've been playing professionally ever since, right?
Yeah.
Wow, what a story for that. Now, pulling all that out, I'm most interested. So, how did you go from forward to outside back? When did that transition happen?
Yeah, well, now I'm kind of transitioning back, it seems like, now that I've gotten here, which is cool. No, but basically, I grew up always playing on the wing, and we played a 4-4-2, and I can run a lot, and I was fast, so I was always going up and down the wings, and then got to Stanford, was recruited as kind of an outside forward. Then after 2 years, we got in Kristen Press, we got in Lindsay Taylor, we had already Kelly O'Hara, and they were like, you're good, but you're not that good. So we're going to promote you to fullback. Yeah.
Nice.
And I think it worked out just, we didn't have anyone who was left-footed, and I was kind of willing to put in the work and maybe had a kind of half-decent left foot, so it was a little bit more natural to use me there, and I think I found my position since when I was playing winger, I always just went down the wing and crossed it. I never actually went towards the goal, which is something I'm still working on as an attacking fullback. It's still important to actually go a little bit central, and being right-footed as well, it should be more natural. But I think, yeah, I like running, and you don't find that many, especially not many forwards who like that kind of running. Mm-hmm. So no, it worked out great, and then, you know, I've just been had such a great career at this position, and then coming here, it's been really cool. We have such a big squad, and you know, and I was injured, and coming back, I think it was a little bit more natural to get some minutes in at the end of a game as a forward. So I've kind of been going back to that, and again, it's just is kind of getting me into that more aggressive and a little bit more selfish mindset that sometimes you have to be the one to go towards goal. And I finally scored my first goal for Chelsea.
Against Tottenham.
Yep.
Yes, the last game of the year for us, which was really cool. And yeah, so now I think it's just good to be able to be flexible and help the team however you can.
That's awesome. So your bio reads primarily right-footed wingback. Yeah. You joined Chelsea this past summer. You're the captain of the New Zealand national team. You've appeared in 3 World Cups and 2 Olympics. What's missing from your resume to this point? Is there anything else that you want to kind of go achieve in the game?
Yeah, I think, Champions League is a really big one, and I think we have a challenging side, I think, of the draw. But we definitely have a chance to get to the semifinals, as Chelsea did last year. And then again, you know, one of the 2 top teams in the world, at least Europe, will be awaiting us. But I think that's something, at least in my 2 years that I've signed for here, that I'd love to progress in the Champions League farther than I have before. And, you know, in Rosengård in Sweden, we kind of had this quarterfinal curse. And so I think that's one of the reasons why I'm still in Europe, you know, because I think the US League is doing well, and that's home for me, but the draw of playing in Europe and playing Champions League is still really strong for me. And I mean, to play in a final, obviously to win, that's the big goal. And you know, with New Zealand, we haven't been very close to winning a World Cup or the Olympics, and that might not be super realistic for us, but I think in Europe and with these club teams that I've been on, I think that's something to definitely dream about, and feels like it's maybe, you know, in reach.
So obviously the fact that Chelsea are vying for a Champions League, with our women's team is phenomenal, and probably part of the reason why you want to join Chelsea. Were there any other elements of either the squad or the management structure that really attracted you to the project?
Yeah, you could feel playing in Europe and being in Sweden that the women's game is growing so fast here. I think the fastest, if you look at the last 5 years, just where this club alone has come from, it's just been like this. And where I was playing in Sweden, I'm not going to say it's going backwards, but it's definitely slowed down. Whereas if you look at maybe 10, 15 years ago, that was where it was at, and with a team like Umeå and just even with Rosengård, you always had good teams doing well in the Champions League. But seeing the investment from the FA, seeing how well the women's national team is doing, seeing the support from men's clubs, that's probably been the biggest game changer. There's still a lot to be done, but I think that's something, at least even off the field, that appealed to me, to be able to build my brand, to be able to reach more fans, to have more followers, all those kind of things. That's not necessarily for status, but more I like to inspire people. And with my food blog and Instagram, now with this podcast, I'm kind of juggling a lot of balls here, but I think to be able to have a bigger platform just helps you be able to reach more people. And also I think having someone like Emma Hayes at the forefront of, I think she's at the club in general, I think she's such a boss, and obviously for the women's side, I think she's really inspirational. And now being a mom as well, having someone like Katie Chapman, who I wasn't able to play with, but that she played after having kids, that she's an ambassador for the club now, the first female. I think those are things that really spoke to me. But obviously Chelsea knocking my team out of the Champions League was kind of like, football-wise, it's time to make a move. But all those other things are probably equally as important to me, if I'm honest, being 31 years old, and I definitely have my personal football goals, but I do see where I can make an impact in other areas.
Yeah. So if we talk about the Chelsea women's team, everybody knows who Frank Kirby is, but in your opinion, who are some of those players who are flying under the radar that people really should know about as well?
Yeah, I think that's kind of why I've loved doing the podcast as well. You have someone like Anita Santi, who's come back from her injury. When we did that podcast, there were so many people writing in saying thank you so much for addressing coming back from a long-term injury and her giving her tips on kind of how to stay sane and positive. And I'm going to be talking with Magdalena, and I think it's cool. You have players, we have so many of us going to a World Cup. Erin Cuthbert, to speak with her the first time Scotland is going to a World Cup. She's impressive. She's so young, and the things she was saying and the wisdom and her accepting that responsibility to build the women's game in Scotland. I think almost everyone has an inspirational story. And on every team, you're going to, of course, get the players, and especially the domestic players who deserve to be the ones who are the face of the club. And just that we have Fran and G, when you go to Stamford Bridge and you see their faces, you see the jerseys, that's so important. I know all of us would love to be in that position, but I think it's in the bigger picture. I think just that we have one or two right now, and then I think it's cool that, like, you guys are interviewing me right now, and that I interview my teammates, that everyone else also can share their stories. But we all have a role to play, and I think Hedvig as well, being so experienced, and there are so many. Even Beth England, maybe doesn't have the same national team experience, but having been on loan to Liverpool, made such an impact there, helped inadvertently Chelsea win the title by scoring goal. There's so many cool stories.
We call that Agent England.
Agent
check. The team,
Agent
they go to other teams.
It's amazing because, in listening to the podcast, like Anita, for example, like an amazing person and life, take the football aside. I'm blown away because you're like, wow, and you play professionally.
Exactly.
Wow.
No, that's awesome. So, you did start this podcast. So, let's talk about that. This past summer, so it's pretty new for you, right?
Yeah.
So, Girls with Balls, and here's the description that you have in iTunes. It's a podcast about brave women who dare to follow their dreams, both on the field and off the field. This is a forum for sharing stories comparing battle scars and celebrating achievements, this is your chance to get to know the inspirational figures who are out there changing the game. So if you don't believe in girl power or think that running like a girl is a bad thing, this podcast is not for you. And we love that.
It sounds good when you say it.
You don't have to be something for everyone. You're like, this is what I'm set up to do, and you will get a lot of people that appreciate that. You're like, I'm not here to please everybody. I've got an idea, that's what we're going to do, and we love it. So just kind of opening it to a lot of our listeners. I'm sure they're all subscribed over anyway, but if not, go subscribe. And like, what can they expect when they come to your podcast, and like, kind of what are you looking at doing in the future?
Yeah, well, I think there are a lot of podcasts about football, of course. There are podcasts that talk to female players more and more, but I think, as you guys said, being the first Chelsea women player that you guys have spoken to, I think a lot of the talk is about men. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of the discussion around the women's game is a little bit negative. It's kind of, and even as players, we get asked these questions, what needs to be done, and why weren't there many people at the game? Why should you get paid as much as men? And these are all very, very relevant questions, but it might be nice sometimes to be asked, kind of, what do you like to do on your days off? And, I don't know, what kind of food do you eat? Or what's the worst date you've been on? Just funny things that kind of, because...
If we can add that in.
Just in the script.
I think something that is... I'm starting to realize that while we're fighting, and this is something I talked about with Rosie White, my national team teammate, while we're pushing for equality, we're not necessarily wanting to be treated the same as the men. We are different. And I don't want to get into kind of the physical part, who can run faster, whatever. But more just, I think we're more accessible. We greet every single fan who wants an autograph or a picture with us after the game. The men realistically can't do that. There's 60,000 people there. But we can. And one day I hope maybe there will be too many people that we can't do that. But we're not there right now. And I think, I can do these podcasts with my friends, and there doesn't have to be, a media team coming in. It's more casual, but I want to use that, as a good thing. And I think to be able to allow people to get to know us will maybe help us in the long term get to a place where we are inaccessible, which is, so it's kind of weird. We want to be where the men's game is, but at the same time making the most and taking advantage of where we are now while still pushing. So that's why I like to ask those controversial questions, and we get into some tough topics and talking about equality, talking about sexism and certain things that we want to be better, but also talking about love and, I don't know, stupid, the embarrassing moments,
music,
just
dancing,
whatever. And
the dance-offs in the locker room.
Exactly.
I see a lot of that. You guys are having a blast.
Yeah, and I can just put on Instagram, what questions do you want me to ask? And I will read every single person who writes back to me, and I don't expect Lionel Messi to be able to do the same thing, but I think that's where we are now. And then again, these stories, I think, every player, and as a female player, most of us are in a position where we have to have something else. We can play football, we can live on it now, but none of us are making enough that it'll be able to support us afterwards. So almost every woman you talk to has a project or another business or is studying. And I think that's also really inspirational. We've got tattoo artists, we have singers, we have, guitar, Hannah Wilkinson, again, on the New Zealand team. She's putting her music on Spotify, she's designing tattoos, and again, this is a situation that we've kind of been forced to be in, but I also think it's something that can inspire a lot of women and keep pushing it forward so that one day the next generation won't have to study. But I also, talking to Neats, it's a good thing maybe to have options, and you never know when you get injured, and you never know when the money runs out, and just, you hear these stories on the men's side and not necessarily on the women's side yet, but it's just kind of taking into account all of these factors and trying to inspire as many girls, boys, whoever as possible.
What's been your favorite moment from the podcast so far? Is there one thing that kind of stands out, interview or something?
I mean, I have to say that Erin really did blow me away because I see her as this fun girl. She's pretty crazy. You see her on all those Chelsea bloopers and Chelsea TV. She's always there, and just hearing her speak about this responsibility and how much she wants to inspire and how she was a little girl, it wasn't that long ago, going to the Scotland women's national team games, having a jersey for someone to sign, and now she can do that and give back and not kind of taking it for granted because she's got her fancy car, she's got her name brand stuff and is living the life, but she also is studying her business degree and kind of realizes how lucky she is and wants to make it better for the next generations. But everyone has made me laugh so much, and I also having Hannah Wilkinson play her guitar and like kind of have a musical guest. I felt like Ellen DeGeneres. I'm like, got a musical guest. But I'm really excited to have Magda and her partner Pernilla, who obviously everyone knows, and I didn't say that it was going to be her, but I think everyone guessed, and I think that would be cool to kind of, I'm going to quiz and see like how well they actually know each other.
So you've been so blessed to see kind of soccer or football in so many different parts of the world and in many different competitions. So, kind of within that journey, are there individual maybe matches or moments that stand out to you as being very, groundbreaking or definitive for your career?
Yeah, I think obviously having just been to New Caledonia for the World Cup qualifiers, that's really fresh in my mind. It's a place that not many people have even heard of. And
I had to look it up on the map.
I
honestly didn't know.
And it's stunning, and that's also so cool to have that opportunity to go there, inspire the girls there, but also show people what it's like. Maybe more people will travel there, and tourism maybe can help these countries. We've been to Papua New Guinea many times, Samoa, and just seeing every 4 years the level improve. And it was a blowout, and I understand for the European players, the qualifiers they've just gone through, for me to waltz back in here with my tan and be like, we won every game 8-10-0. It feels very unfair, but I think going through it and realizing how the game can be changing lives in those countries, and I do understand why FIFA and football being a global game, why we still do have that one spot. And I see both perspectives, but I think every time we have those qualifiers and play those tournaments, just such an unbelievable experience. And to travel places that you otherwise wouldn't go, that a lot of people haven't been, and just try to, not only inspire the kids there, but also the players we're playing against, and players on the other teams were coming up to me and being like, are you the one who plays for Chelsea? You play for Chelsea, awesome. And they were just in awe, and I think that it's really cool to see how much football can bring light to people's lives. And even if they're being, blown out in these games, it's still so fun, and it brings people together. So that's something that I think is so unique to my career and playing for New Zealand, and something, I always have the conversation about should I have waited to try to play for the US or whatever, but obviously there's no looking back. So looking at what I have done and what I hopefully will continue to do for maybe one more cycle, not sure. That's been so special.
Nice. So speaking of that, I guess, Mike, do you want to talk about the next one you have?
So World Cup 2019.
Oh my gosh, this year.
Yes. So how excited are you for your third World Cup? What is that like?
Yeah, it's actually my fourth.
Wow.
Yeah, but I can't believe it. I think we got a good chance. It's going to be really challenging, obviously, with the Netherlands, Canada, Cameroon. Don't know too much about what they're going to bring to the table, but I think we had both Canada and the Netherlands in 2015, and we tied Canada and we lost to the Netherlands, but I think those are two teams that we could compete with, and then obviously Cameroon will be a must-win if we want to go through. And that's, for me, I think in the past we kind of had these huge lofty goals, like we're going to win the World Cup and we can do this, and I think right now to make history, if we won a game at a World Cup, I'm not saying I don't dream big, but like the reality is we win a game, we get a tie, we could go through, and we would be the first out of the, obviously our under 17s just got bronze at the World Cup, but for the All Whites and the Football Ferns, we would be the first team to ever win a game at a World Cup. And then obviously the goal would be then to have that get us out of the group. And then now that I'm based in Europe, to have it be in France, it's not too far away. You know, I think my former teammates and some girls who aren't participating will make it over. You know, my partner will be able to come, and I mean, it's not close to LA, but my parents will of course be there. And I think there are enough of us who are a little bit older on the team that I think a lot of family will come, because we don't know, you know, how long we're going to be doing this. But I think just you've seen every 4 years how much bigger it's gotten. You saw the Euros, how well they did that, how well it was executed, how many people watched those games. I think France, they're going to do such a good job. The support for their own team is huge, but I can imagine being in Europe, there'll be so many people there, and I'm just so excited. And like I said, not knowing how many more cycles I'll be able to do, I think I just want to be able to give everything. That's why I came here, you know, to these next 2 years, give everything I have to football. I left, you know, a great club, a comfortable situation, my boyfriend, to come here and just give everything I've got. And then if I can continue, that'll be great. But I think you just never know what happens.
Well, let's go ahead and wrap this up with some rapid fire questions, and we'll just keep it short and sweet.
Lightning round.
And end it.
What was your favorite thing about living in Sweden?
Oh my gosh, being able to bike everywhere.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay.
What do you miss most about Los Angeles?
The sun. Obviously. Sorry, Mom and Dad, but it's the sun.
Layup. What do you collect? Like trainers, Yeezys, watches, sunglasses?
Passport stamps?
Well, passports, I guess, now with 3.
Yeah.
But no, I actually take Polaroid photos.
Nice.
So it's not like a collection, but I mean, then you have tangible photos. So.
That counts. I like it.
How do you spoil your dog?
Spoil her. She is so spoiled. Everything she sleeps in our bed. She eats our food. She's so spoiled in every way.
What team did you watch growing up? Like, who's your kind of locked-in team, whether it be in the U.S. or anywhere else?
Soccer or
soccer or
okay, because
whatever.
Lakers die hard.
Lake show.
The 3-peat was I haven't been home since he came to the team.
But do you enjoy him being on the Lakers?
I mean, yeah.
Doesn't sound rapid fire.
But I was like, you know, I had the Shaq and Kobe, like they hated each other, but they loved like that was the Laker kind of dynasty right there. But I like LeBron James.
Obviously, as a kid, everyone has a pair of boots that they want to get or have their parents buy them. What was that first pair of boots you were able to convince your parents to spend a little extra money for?
I loved the Copas.
Nice.
And I had this coach, and he was like, I always had, as most kids do, I think your boots are normal size, which is too big. Like, you need them to be tight.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that yet. And I finally had this coach in high school, and he was like, those need to be 2 sizes smaller. So he had me get these, and I put them in the bath. I showered in them. I put the leather, everything, and they were like socks. But I think I wear like a 6, and they were 3s. So like I think I lost all my toenails, but by the end of the process, I appreciated what he had done for me. But that was painful.
Awesome. All right. Well, again, Allie, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you.
Great to meet you. First of many Chelsea women's players, right?
It better be.
I love it. We appreciate it. So again, all of our listeners, go subscribe, follow her on social media, check it out. She has a lot to offer all of you. And until next time, Chelsea fans, you know what to do. Keep the blue flag flying high.